been more focused on modular recently for financial reasons mostly. I just can't afford to fund both that and standalone instruments at the moment, but I still like both, so I'm hoping I can include both again in the future. I think what puts a lot of people off of modular, or at least judging by the comments that I get, is the cost. Although it's not necessarily as expensive as you might think, especially now. There's some pretty affordable cases around nowadays, and lots of very small ones, so you can try incorporating just a little bit of Eurorack stuff into your regular setup, with your standalone instruments. If you're looking at starting off with the equivalent of something like a complete desktop synthesizer, like a complete synth in its own right, and comprising of individual modules for each of the elements, then you can probably put something together for about £500, euros, dollars, or not far off of it. One thing that used to frustrate me a bit when I had a few individual synths was just the amount of real estate it would take on the main supplier, the amount of plugs I would need. One thing that appealed to me about modular was that I could have a single case containing enough modules for maybe 3 or 4 individual synth voices, so like 3 or 4 synths, using just one mains plug, just all in one case and using one plug. Also, the amount of desk space that modular takes up, it can be considerably less because it can be pretty self-contained. I think the only obvious thing that makes it seem less convenient is the time that it takes to set up each patch or sound, but that's the trade-off you pay for the flexibility of it. The main advantage of modular is its flexibility. The possibilities are endless, so there's quite possibly a module out there for every task or sound that you're likely to think of. Especially if you're into analog sounds, then you're definitely going to be very well catered for. And Eurorack, by its very nature, is designed to be intercompatible as well, so anything you buy, you're going to probably find some way of using it with everything else that you've got. You really can go anywhere with Eurorack, but if it's specific instruments of the past that you're hoping to emulate, particular sounds that you like of old instruments, then it's also great for that. There's modules based on all kinds of vintage synthesizers, and some use very close technology in terms of components and the way they're constructed. So you can often get as close in terms of sound as you're likely to get without owning the original instrument. So that in itself is something worth considering. And it's modular, so essentially you can combine components from different classic synth designs and build up potentially a synth of your dreams. Eurorack is good for recording too, because you have such a choice of sounds and functions. You can get the exact or much closer to the exact results that you want, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Using it live as a conventional synth can be a bit tricky because of the patching process. So it takes time to dial in each new sound or create each new sound. And disturbing the cables with your hands can sometimes create a bit of a wobble in the sound somewhere, or just a little crackle or something. But it's not unmanageable. Generative music is really where it shines though, or any music that's very improvised or minimal. Generative stuff is basically built around the nature of the instrument itself, gradually building a soundscape through progressively patching one thing to another, and then potentially just seeing where it takes you, improvising. It can be very interesting. Whether or not modular is for you depends really on what you want from an instrument. Obviously it won't be for everybody. It can be a kind of one-box-fits-all solution, which can go a long way to justify the cost of it. You don't necessarily have to abandon standalone instruments either. Actually, a good way to see how you get on with modular is just to start small. Consider the instruments you've already got and think about what you'd like to add to them, how you could complement them in some way. Maybe add a filter from a vintage synth you've always wanted but could never afford. And if your existing synths already have some kind of patching capability, then you're away. You just pick up a little case that will house the modules you want to try and and that's all you need. I still like the standalone instruments just as much as before, but I don't think I could give up modular, because it just makes too much possible to ignore it.